The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall continue to follow me all the days of this protracted experience of death, and I will dwell in the house of the most super intelligent power, source, and force of love and creation forever. What's happening? Benton here. Benton here. Egg yolk drink time. It's getting a bit tepid. Still got some heat to it though. Rolled out. It just fueled up. Emptied out the jugs and washed my eyeballs. Rolled out. Headed to the delivery. 2 stops today. Had quite the adventure in downtown Roanoke, Virginia yesterday. I will save that for later in the stream, perhaps. Got some spiritual topics to discuss. Unlike yesterday. Recovered from this pizza, I suppose. That was an interesting reminder of the mind, body, spirit aspects. Just what highly processed food can do to an individual. Wasn't altogether good. Wasn't worth it. And I think it can be helpful to every once in a while sort of, return notion of just what's considered to be a treat and a reward and enjoyment, and then looking at the pizza and intuitively, my being was saying, hey man, I know you spent the money here, but I think we're good. Just skip it, right? And looking back on it, as my stomach has yet to entirely recover. And remember, there's nothing wrong with this food in the conventional sense. It's completely acceptable and fine. The issue is becoming habituated towards more proper food, that doesn't cause problems for the gut biome, that doesn't cause, intestinal stress or whatever you want to call it. Then realizing this is the more or less the default state of, much of America, right? The individuals that comprise America and, all of the political hoopla and the news cycles. It's like, the blame game and, somebody has to do something and just on and on and on. And it's like, hey, how about fix what is closest at hand, most important in a certain way? How about address something as simple as one's own gut health, right? Why not? Why not take ownership of that, which in reality means no more pizza. But I like pizza. Yeah, so do I. Meanwhile, after going such a long period of time without consuming much of it, uh, how come my body knows that this particular pizza was going to be bad for my guts? But then somehow I could go have slices, at a particular place in Los Angeles on a somewhat regular basis. Never had a single problem. And maybe a little bit might make things not want to move along. However, that was already an issue, so I don't know that that it was altogether caused by the pizza, but certainly wasn't inducing agitation or annoyance or certain emotional states with the so-called mind-body connection and the idea that there's supposedly other than the brain, the next area of the body with that much intelligence, supposedly, whatever that means, is the intestines. The idea of a gut feeling and all of these things. Shout out to the chat. Going to see if I can discipline myself and not read the chat as much when I'm actually streaming. So we'll see how that goes. These are the things I think about: gut health and understanding the psychology of individuals broadly, generally. I understand what that process becomes. Number one, you want the support, not you, the listener, my apologies. Number one, the being wants some sort of a support group, make sure that whatever they're saying or however they're behaving conforms with the peer group first and foremost. And I'd like to ask people, what is anybody really getting out of their peer group? I would say all they're getting is to not be rejected outright, which probably feels like acceptance. Meanwhile, this world doesn't know what acceptance is. This world manifests as the lack of acceptance, the lack of love. The stream was originally entitled "Supreme Authoritative Righteous Source in an Ignominious World," right? A world of disgrace, right? And as my dad emails me links to videos trying to prove that Donald Trump is the Antichrist, I mean, apparently I couldn't make it more than 45 seconds through the video because the heavy levels of, CIA fucking brainwave entrainment, mind control, or whatever the fuck it is, that I could immediately detect. No, this realm is antichrist. This realm is anti. This realm is designed and de facto operated through the subversion of the creative force of thesis. The real thing, the what I am, it's anti-thesis running the show. The lack of righteousness, So imagine supreme authoritative righteous source, embodied, not even embodied, just in that as beingness. And then imagine the lack of all of those assertions and positive traits, and the movement and the growth and the creativity and the expansive, joyous unfolding of love of such a force. On the one hand, that's thesis, the real thing, the what I am, the so-called way, the truth, and the life. And then imagine the void or the lack of said. That's this world, antichrist. The lack of Christ, the lack of um, the promotion and exaltation of death based on the lack of the thing that doesn't know what death is. The real thing. The real thing doesn't know what you mean. We don't know what death is, people. You don't know what it is, and I don't know what it is. Now, people will martyr themselves and say, oh, well, I've had loved one after loved one after loved one pass away. Well, maybe if you actually met them with supreme authoritative righteousness, they wouldn't have got up out of here. You ever think about that? Maybe this world couldn't give them a good enough reason to stick around. Oh, but those are our cherished loved ones. How come nobody I've ever really known has passed? I know like one person in my whole life has passed away that I was close to. That's it, one person. How is that possible? I don't know anybody that passed away from either the pandemic or the so-called medicine. Not one. How's that possible? So I understand the people who call, oh, you don't know what death is then. You're right, and I never will. And why would I? These are the lovers of death. They love it. What does the Bible say about those folks? They hate, so-called air quotes, God. They hate what I am. And if that's what you are, they hate what you are. So now the being who perhaps sees through a glass darkly, right, can see, oh, well, now the world makes a lot more sense. Antichrist, anti the real thing, void, lack. Oh, but it's a world of abundance. No, it's not. This is a world of the lack of abundance, while increasing numbers of Americans are coming to understand that for some reason they were sold a bill of goods that they were middle class and somewhat affluent, and they were so important and supported and loved that they would be provided for. Here's your resources. Just take the path of college and the path of achievement, and now go beg for a job at Target. Go beg. And then look at your paycheck and say, how am I to survive on? Well, you're not to survive on. In a world based on the lack of abundance, guess what? If you are what I am, you are abundance. So how could abundance itself be dependent on the lack of abundance? This is to curse one's blessing. This is a ignominious, disgraceful world that says, hey, this is the world that says, hey, provide me. The world says, provide me with access to supreme authoritative righteous source, and I will have it behaving as if it's the lack of supreme authoritative righteous source. Have you considered my servant Job? That's the story of Job right there. Job was the real thing. Antithesis says, well, yeah, sure. He's got it all. Easy for him to say, easy for you to say, let me have a shot at him. Put him in my world of lack of authority, lack of righteousness, lack of creation, lack of expansion, lack of abundance. Yeah, oh, Job's got everything. Let him subsist or survive on a minimum amount of resources. Then he'll sing a different tune. Will he? Well, that's what antithesis says, because that's the only bet antithesis gets to make. Antithesis had one move and one move only. Antithesis, understanding that it has one poker hand to play, it's out there strutting its stuff. It knows it's bluffing to the max. It knows it's playing the strategy of a maniac to raise all bets, to accuse and push, to never go on the defense. While the so-called conservative sticks their chest out, struts around and goes, "That's liberal. That's liberal." And doesn't even know you're on the back foot, buddy. You're on the defense. You've lost. You've lost because you think the winning strategy is to strut around calling everything liberal. Well, that's liberal. Okay. Well, you've identified and categorized and named a thing. Now what? Now what? Well, that's liberal. Okay. And you're on the back foot. You're on the defense. And you know what that thing that you could just call liberal is going to do? It's going to raise your bet again. So say, well, you're a racist. So what's the fucking difference, bitch? Oh, and here's your daughter home from college, and she's a communista. And she, in order to pay her bills, in order to supplement whatever you're doing for her, Daddy, she's down there baristaing at the Starbucks, and 50-year-old Benton couldn't get in the front door before your little communista apple of your eye was staring daggers at that man. Hates his guts. And on some level, he's a representation of what she thinks of you, buddy. But that's liberal. Your children are liberal, sir. Do you really think going around calling anything liberal does anything? It proves that you're on the defense and the back foot. So that enemy that you can't respect is whooping your ass. I know. Because you ain't shit. Conservatives ain't shit. Paper tiger. Oh, they're going to mess around and wake up the sleeping giant. No, they're going to stomp a mud hole in your ass. And part of them stumping a mud hole in your ass is you think you're a sleeping giant. Enemy's got you convinced that you're a giant. A fucking pipsqueak. These gender studies professors would eat you for motherfucking breakfast, consume you whole, digest you, and poop you out, and then one of them creepy weirdos would probably eat the poop. And when you can be defeated by that, you have a problem. Not them. Oh, that's liberal. Okay. Great. You've identified the problem. It's not them, it's you. What are you going to do about the so-called liberal? What are you going to do about it? Anything? No. Strut around going, what's liberal? Okay. And you've lost another hand of poker. So here's your next hand. And why does everything cost so much? Because you keep losing the poker hands, and your stack is getting smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller because the liberals are raking in all the pots, and the bankers are raking every pot. The bankers are taking chips out of every pot. That's why. And anybody can't see that. What is the value of a person who's here in the now and can't see that? I'm liberal. Okay, great. So is the university you're sending your daughter to. What's the difference? So is everything she does on her smartphone. What's the difference? You think that's a MAGA 6'4" broad-shouldered Chad giving her the high hard one at 2 a.m? What are the politics of the 6'4" broad-shouldered Chad that's dicking your daughter down at 2 a.m? You checked with that man? Have you talked to the criminal? There's only that one thing that matters in this world to the people who strut around going, "That's liberal." Who's your daughter? Who does your daughter spread her legs for? That's what I'd like to know. Probably not a fellow like you. You ever think of that? You might, you might be a little more like a truck driving Benton. All right. Well, old Benton, he's strange, got some weird ideas, but you know, deep down, he's a good goddamned American, right? Well, if you mean a fool, then sure. I mean, somewhere. I don't know that I'll ever entirely uh, exculpate. I don't know, whatever the word is. I don't know that I'll ever entirely get rid of the foolishness. That's liberal. Watched the Nick Johnson video on Northern California, and some guy got interviewed in there, and all he did was call everybody liberal. And then in the comments, it's like, boy, that guy sure did make a lot of sense. He's right on the money. And I was like, what are you talking about? Right on what, by calling things liberal? That's right on the money. That doesn't do anything. Uh, there's no action there. There's no action that can be taken because something's been pointed at called liberal. Okay, what now? Now what? What's next? That's all right. We got step one figured out. Point at stuff and call it liberal. What's step two? I've never heard anybody propose a step two. It's just at this point, point at things and call them liberal. Okay. Here, let me give you a hint. Does it work for a bank? Does it work for a corporation? Does it work for a government? If the answer is yes, then it's bad. Categorizing what's bad into either liberal or conservative, what's that going to do? Liberal bad, conservative bad, American taxpayer bad. American taxpayer bad. All of them, based on what they do. They bail out banks. That's bad. We all agreed by now that bailing out banks is bad. If not, I don't want to hear any complaints about the price of groceries, because everybody who thinks it's good to bail out a bank doesn't worry about the price of groceries. That's not their concern. That's your problem, troll. That's your problem, impoverished human. What's wrong with you? Why are you lacking in money? It was a free for all back in the time leading up to the bailouts. Why didn't you steal your piece of cheese? You carry it back to your little fucking rat hole. Why didn't you rat hole the cheese when it was time to do so? Why? Understand what a bailout of the global financial system is, and they know that it's a good thing because they stole the money from the po folk. That's how they got rich. They stole it from poor people, literally. So everybody whining and crying about what groceries cost, you're poor, and the reason why you have to concern yourself with what groceries cost is because you bailed out banks, because you're a taxpayer and you're bad. You're bad, taxpayer. Now, again, if I'm not talking to you, I'm not talking to you. And I'm still in the process of reforming my language around pronouns. So it's really their bad, because I certainly don't count myself in that group of tax-paying Americans, and I have no idea who listens to this. Less and less concerned over time, certainly. Maybe I'll just talk to myself, right? But so everybody that's not Benton, right? Because America as I did, woke up one day and the television said, well, if the American taxpayer doesn't bail out the banks, then businesses can't get the loans they need to pay their workers. Then I switched to, that was maybe Fox News. I said, oh, that's interesting. Well, what's CNN talking about? And a different CIA agent talking head said, if the American taxpayer doesn't bail out the banks, then businesses won't be able to get the loans they need to pay their workers. I said, that's interesting. I wonder what's going on CNBC or MSNBC or every channel. And I thought, okay, well, something's going on and I don't understand it. Clearly Benton has failed because I don't know what the fuck they're talking about, because I have enough knowledge of business to know that, yeah, well, businesses do access short-term loans for various reasons. So perhaps that could have something to do with being able to make payroll. But clearly on this, what kind of failed business can't maintain its workforce without a loan from a bank? You see what I'm saying? Like, what are we talking about here? Now really they mean mom and pop. The idea of small business, while pretending like small business is something desirable or, altogether going to be a thing going forward. And it'll always will be. Certainly in certain ways, but and now I'm see these TikToks that filter down into YouTube, and now people want to blame everything on the pandemic. What about the bailout? What about 2008, 2009? Oh, well, yeah, because the system said that it fixed itself, and everybody just believed that. Why? Because that's what's, in order to go to work and slave away for a corporation, that's what needs to happen. They need to be able to go into a delusional state and say, well, yeah, everything's fine because they told us it was fine. So, hey, just go along with a bailout of the global financial system and everything will be fine. And didn't bother to talk to the criminal. No, the American people didn't say, now, wait a minute. If you need us to do a thing, we're going to need you to explain to us what happened to lead society to the point where this is even necessary in the first place. America doesn't ask that question. See, meanwhile, you could double groceries and I'm good in the short run. Now, who knows going forward? Meanwhile, that's true anyway. None of us are promised tomorrow, but with the amount of money I make and the way I live and not having a life in the conventional sense, and I would say it's not possible to have a life in the conventional sense. That's a lie in the first place. To perform as a personality and a performance and a collection of experiences and memories and familial ties, community ties, and all of this. That performance. What's required. What victories over one's own memory and mental processes and consciousness is required, right? So a person is able to work for Target. So that a person can continue to behave as a packaged product in a packaged world. And it struck me as I looked down onto the floor of this big rig, and there's many, many liters and half liters of seemingly expensive, high quality spring water. Right? Somewhere around $2 a liter. And yeah, water is more expensive than gas at this point. Gasoline. Gallon of gas, even in California or Washington, doesn't cost that much. And I looked at it and thought, well, I've been on the West Coast. I've been around the hippies, and they'll go fill up their own water jugs, and a lot of Arkansas people. In fact, this Mountain Valley spring water in the general vicinity of Hot Springs National Park, Arkansas. If you go downtown in Hot Springs, on the outskirts of the national park, there's free springs. Just press a button, and here comes the exact same water that Mountain Valley spring water is packaging and selling for $2 or more a liter. I think it's more, actually. And I know the glass bottles is like 3 something, but this is all plastic. It's like, yeah, we're ingesting the microplastic. It's happening. It's happening. This package products. And that's cool. On some level, you've been taught that you are to package yourself, right? That's what bootstrapping is. Hey, man, it's all in how you package yourself, right? Well, Benton, in his world, right, in touch with the supreme authoritative righteous source of what Benton is, says, yeah, of course, I do that in my own way, which is to say, I became pretty decent at a thing that in order to perform what it's chosen to perform, right, in order to help, and this is what I mean by syságent or agent of the system, in order that the system may achieve some of its purposes, it finds Benton useful in driving a big rig because Benton, is the fucking way station open? That's weird. I don't think so. 4:47 a.m. Well, pause. We'll see. Maybe it is. It says open. We get started early today. Of course, if I was foreign, if I was from another country, I'd just drive right past this. Maybe not now, but certainly in the recent past. I don't think this bitch is open, but you just never know. Yeah, maybe it is. I have noticed they're actually making us cross the scales a little more, but I hadn't really seen them inspecting nobody. We're light enough; we should get the bypass here. Let's see. Yeah, bypass. And part of this is probably the feds are, there's probably a whole bunch of stuff that the states are supposed to be doing and they just haven't been doing it. So it's like, well, okay, we got to weigh a certain number of trucks every month. I still don't see very many inspections going on. Remember, this is a blue state. So what do you mean? Ain't you down south? Yeah, I just crossed into North Carolina. It's a blue state. I know. Hate to break it to you. You call it purple or what? It's a blue state. Virginia and North Carolina went blue. Of course, like as I like to talk about, and this ain't the deep South, but The entire Deep South was nothing but Democrat in the late 1800s. Reason it flipped. Nixon, I guess, flipped it. Then Reagan. I don't want to get into politics, but I'm going to have some more of this ginseng, I think. Maybe I'll wait a little longer. But anyway, yeah, a world of packaged product and a price on everything. And so when people go to the grocery store and they're like, "Oh my God, what is this?" It's like, yeah, because you or they, right? Maybe not you, that person who's confused as to why they're now. And so here's the thing: is they absolutely can afford groceries. They can't afford groceries and all this nonsense they've been funding their whole life. See, Benton discontinued funding a bunch of nonsense in his 20s. By the time I was 25, I realized, hey, I'm funding a bunch of nonsense. And I knocked it the fuck off. I believe I've had one car payment in my entire life. And that was enough for me to go, yeah, that's probably, oh no, two. I've had two car payments in my entire life. And thought to myself, yeah, that's probably not the way to go. I had one mortgage. I thought, yeah, that's probably not the way to go. And meanwhile, at least you can live in the house. You can drive the car to work, right? It's like, yeah, but I could also pay cash for a quality used automobile. Right. And if a person actually doesn't buy a bunch of bullshit, then during the good times, they can perhaps save enough money to where it's like, yeah, here's the thing is they say, okay, well, yeah, Benton, you're going to buy a used car and then you're going to depend on it. And what if it breaks down? Then I'll buy another one. What do you mean? I have enough money right now to buy two used cars. Yeah. Oh, wow. Are you rich? No. I have money because I don't spend it on a bunch of foolishness, right? Because I understand on some level that to perform in this realm is to, on an ongoing basis, I'm perpetually packaging myself as a product, whether I want to or not. It doesn't matter what my opinion is. It doesn't matter how I view that. Yeah, I also had my own version of strutting around going, that's liberal. It's just going around and accusing everything of, being morally bankrupt on some level because it's all tied into business. And I still do that to some extent. It's like, yeah, you're not wrong, sir, but now what? That's fine to acknowledge that if the being continues to think their way through and continues to progress in that vein. So the human mind, like the rest of the humans seeking efficiency, to say that's liberal, now the mind gets to stop thinking, which is all it really wants to do on some level. Can I pretty please with sugar on top stop thinking now? Oh, yes, that's liberal. Okay, now I don't have to think. See? And so, yeah, I have my own version of calling everything liberal, but I continue on, right? I get it out of the way. I deal with my own irritation, frustration, anger, and annoyance in a way by castigating the financial transaction aspects of much of what goes on here, while owning the fact that Benton himself, in the context of the performance, is a packaged product, and in fact, part of animated death, death warmed over, right? The subversion of the creative force of what I am is to continue to package oneself on an ongoing basis within delusion, vacuous, delusory, adversarial realm of business transactions. Part of the transacting is the packaging of oneself as a product to a marketplace, and doing that intelligently on behalf of me, regardless of how it appears to other people. Because remember, the idea of living in a big rig, having no life whatsoever, do you think any of these people take me seriously? Imagine being a dispatcher and the person that actually does the job, and that where this guy gets commission is something with no life. Day of the holidays, it's a new day. That's only because we couldn't really. Believe me, if they would have figured out a way for me to do on New Year's Day, I would have. In my drive holidays, my favorite day to drive, actually. Hardly anybody's out there. It's great. It's wonderful. The bar. So, in the context of death or protracted experience of death, everything becomes, there's nothing is a business transacting, and there's nothing, all business transacting is in the context of markets and the interplay of markets and a marketplace and the marketplace. Part of that is, okay, what's important to Benton? Proper food. Now we get into preference, certain nutritional supplements, certain quality, which some of which is literally food or extracts of foods, right? Again, more packaged product. Now, can Benton go keep up with the Joneses, live like everybody else, and spend? What do I spend a week at this point on just food and water? It's got to be $350. You know, I think we're at close to $50 a day, all in supplement. Which again, yeah, I could cut out. Hell, I could cut out half the calories I eat every day. Part of me would like it. Mikey would like that. You think I don't have enough of an eating disorder or body dysmorphia? I look good at 120 pounds. That's how sick this world is. I don't have to worry about everybody trying to fuck me quite as much at the grocery store when I'm $1.50. Go in there at $1.20, and good God, surprised they don't tear the clothes from my body. Sickos. So yeah, of course, there's a part of the dead flesh that old Benton resonates with, right? I'm also having the so-called human experience, right? Don't hate me because I'm a sexy motherfucker. I mean, what do you want from me? Meanwhile, I feel better at $1.50. And even that sounds to an American like, what, 150 pounds? That's a small woman, you know, that's a woman, you know, that's what Chalk Body Outline will say. I don't know, man. Back during that time that most of y'all like to romanticize, what was the weight of the average American man? Probably about $1.50. Probably about a buck, you know, 5.7, 5.8, $1.50. What if we really do all have 30 pounds of decaying fecal matter in our fucking intestines? I don't know. You know, does a 180-pound person, would they be 150 if they got off of the process? Why can I eat a slice of pizza? Must be a work. So indispensable to a corporation. You know, if everybody uh, tries the new pizza place once and says, "Well, yeah, but you know, Little Caesars is $8 for a large." Well, okay, then how come the person that makes $20,000 a month that lives in Echo Park, Los Angeles, the gentrifiers, why won't they? There's a Little Caesars in Echo Park. You know, why are there also places that sell, you know, pizza that is 3 times the price? Because there's a market for quality. See, and so Benton has figured out, even before he understood how to convey these concepts with words. Before I had the words, I understood the concept, and I proved my understanding by, for years now, acting on the understanding, which is that yes, Benton, the performer, is also representative of a packaged product, and he can be sent to downtown Roanoke, Virginia, to make a delivery, and he can fuck up, although he really didn't fuck up. There was a road closed downtown. Now the fuck up was driving through downtown in the first place in a big rig, but you know, still would have made it through if not for the road closure. And you know, has the skills and has the abilities to not. Some drivers will, you know, literally tear down power poles and fucking lanes and crash into the sides of buildings and, you know, render the rig inoperable and just create havoc all through downtown. Right? Because that's the packaging of the product. And some intelligent fleet owner, such as the fellow that owns the trucking company that I allow to employ me as a 1099 contractor, because I'm attempting to not be a taxpayer, because fuck the taxpayers. I can't identify a bigger sucker anywhere than the American taxpayer. biggest chump of all time. You want to talk about walking around with a kick me sign on one's back? That's the American taxpayer. Are you crazy? Yeah, even the so-called conservative taxpayers, even them. I can't even get these Americans who are in the fast lane next to me. I can't even get them to pass me because by the time they get in the fast lane, because I'm in the slow lane, they got to look at their phone, and now they forget that they're driving a car, and that they forget that they're trying to pass a big rig, and now, oh look, I need to get over for slow moving traffic, but I can't because these people are blocking me in instead of passing me. Right? There's somebody, but this is the third time this has happened. The American conservative taxpayer won't pass a big rig on the interstate highway system in America because they're texting their side piece or telegrams grooming them to be chomos or they're watching TikTok videos. All I know is that's MAGA in a Ram pickup truck keeping America moving by blocking in big rigs on the interstate repeatedly. Why are they doing that? Because they're fools. That's why. Oh, but they called things liberal, so I guess that's our kind of fool. They called it liberal. I don't know, man. What's a American taxpayer bailout of the global financial system? What is that liberal? Whose idea was that? What administration was Larry Summers a part of? Did he work for a liberal or a conservative? But I'm not dumb enough to think that there's anybody in the government who's not so-called liberal, right? You're liberal, conservative. The conservative doesn't even understand that they, in fact, have already been transformed into a liberal, but they can't face the horror of what they've become. They cannot and will not face the horror of what they've become. Therefore, they are existing in a state between stasis and anti-stasis that can never be resolved. And that is the mechanism whereby the system maintains itself within a state of collapse. That is a state of collapse. Animated death, death warmed over, subversion of the creative force of what I am. The continuous overflowing of the spirit, the continuous renewing of the spirit. Worshiper and objects worthy of worship contained within the same space, but packaged, indoctrinated, hypnotized, and mind controlled into behaving as if that blessing, supreme blessing of what it is in fact a curse through its own behavior, treating that supreme blessing as if it were a curse, so that the simulation can be paused and that antithesis or Satan can appeal through legalese and say, well, based on the performance that we are all witnessing, this thing that's been called supreme blessing all of this time, it's sure not acting like supreme blessing. The servant Job has been considered. And in considering Job, who claims to serve supreme authoritative righteous source, and to be exalted, magnified, lifted up, and blessed above all as a result, abundantly and lovingly, all antithesis has to say is, well, was that deserved? Because look at how he's behaving now. So clearly he never was deserving of that, because look at what he's doing. Meanwhile, the moment I know with every fiber of the beingness of what I am, that what I am is the real thing, then there can be no lack or fear of lack. Fear of lack is a violation, so-called sin. Meanwhile, the Christ story is to take on the so-called sin of the world, which is to treat blessing as if it were a curse. To say, hey, Benton, yeah, we see what you're doing over there, buddy, and we can't co-sign that. We can't get with that level of performance. Sorry. So you're gonna be crucified one way or the other. Whether a literal biblical crucifixion of the Lord Christ Jesus, which I would assert is also metaphorical, perhaps even largely metaphorical and symbolic. And it's not about the crucifixion. It's not now it's here, now it's gone, now it's here, now it's gone. Now we have all of these things. And bear with me while my attention is diverted to a series of Americans who are keeping America moving by unknowingly slowing down a big rig for absolutely no justifiable reason. And they're mostly doing it because they're NPC normies. And now the group that's caught me up behind, they slowed down when I slowed down to normalize big rigs going from a higher speed to a lower speed. Thanks, normies, for normalizing. And when I said, okay, now it's time to speed up and maybe pass this rig in front of me, they sped back up because now they're normalizing. Now they're normalizing big rigs speeding up. And they have no idea that this is what they're performing. They don't know what they're performing. So if they can't and won't even understand what they're performing, how can they ever serve anything whatsoever other than a vacuous, delusory, adversarial world of business transactions, the world of death and gain life? They can't. That's how captured they are. That's how subverted they are. And only they can resolve that condition. Only they. Nobody else can resolve that condition. And now the exact same vehicles that were happy to go either fast or slow, because now they have a perception that a big rig is blocking the passing lane. Now they're going to haul balls in the slow lane to try to push to the front. And the same person that will say, be safe at the truck stop is going to try to, if physically possible, squeeze into a narrow gap as I pass a big rig. And that's the exact same person who was completely contented to ride in the fast lane, blocking me in for mile after mile, going slower than I'm going right now, because they don't know what they're doing. They don't know what they're doing. Now, they can absolutely observe what I'm doing or what you're doing and critique it and have an opinion on it and boss it around and tell it it's wrong or tell it what to do. And that's what the pandemic was. The pandemic is when we all discovered, oh, this is how people really are. They can't watch themselves. They can't control themselves. But they absolutely can look around at everybody else. See? So now the exact same car that wanted to try to squeeze past me in the slow lane, it's tucked in right behind me. See? Because remember, the fast lane is associated with tickets. Oh, we get tickets in the fast lane. See? Oh, no. That's a coward. That's a cowardly American taxpayer. See? So stick your chest out and call everything liberal and uplift what is falsely called MAGA and conservative. And I'll say, well, show me MAGA and I'll show you a coward. Show me a conservative so-called and I'll show you a coward. That's a coward. And they will not act until they feel like they've been ordained, not ordained, until they feel like they've been deputized and authorized by a strong authority outside of themselves, because they were indoctrinated as Christians to worship something that only ever exists outside of themselves. Because in their world, worshiper and object of worship can never be contained in the same internal space, or in fact in the same space. That's why they are willing to sign on to the bill of goods of, oh, if you do everything righteously and correctly in this place, then and only then you get to go to heaven, and now you get to occupy the same space as the worshiper, as the thing that's worthy of being worshipped. Not here, though. Here you must be separated. That's a violation. What are you talking about? If I have access to that connection, how can I be here and be cut off from that connection and also have potential access to that connection? That's crazy. That doesn't make any sense. Either the being is beyond redemption, also known as demonic, wicked, unclean, fallen, right? Irredeemable, a product of this world, right? Originating in this world, the so-called flesh, or it is redeemable, meaning it will potentially show itself, and it will only show itself through behaving redemptively, right? Cash redemption value. It's on all of the cans and bottles of the packaged liquid, CRV, CACRV, California cash redemption value. And the only way for antithesis to achieve its aims, the spirit of what I am must have redemptive value. Otherwise, none of this could be happening. And antithesis could never be attempting to achieve what it's attempting to achieve. It wouldn't be possible. The entire thing that's happening, the crux of that is that's what I am. I'm the crux of this entire thing. Now, again, not Benton the personality, not Benton the performer, not Benton in the context of the performance. What I am is the way, what I am is the truth, what I am is the life. No one comes unto true knowledge of self except through Christ's consciousness. It's right there. And that book also says something about you having the power to become the sons of God. Air quote, so-called, until otherwise defined. When asked, where do we look for the kingdom, Lord Jesus? Oh, it's in you, buddy. It's in me. Yeah. You look within yourself, partner. Okay, well, what then? That's the fun part. Spoiler alert. That's the fun part. Spoilers. But what is the fear of the human? The fear built into the human flesh is that maybe you ain't up to the task. Maybe in seeking to uncover and walk the perfected righteous path that may lie within, what if the being discovers, oh, wait a minute, it's not actually there? What do they say? Better to have loved and lost than never loved at all. Well, people say that. It sounds whimsical and romantic. Yeah, it's great if one doesn't actually have to live based on it, because then we introduce the potential tragedy and heartbreak and sorrow and sadness that would presumably result from discovering, wow, it's really not there. And anybody that tells you, well, of course it's there, is lying to you because they can't possibly know that. I can't tell you that definitively because I can't know that. And that's what I find so fascinating is I can't package this beingness and knowingness into a product because the moment I attempt to do so, it morphs into something that can no longer symbolically represent that highest value. And it's no longer that I, was putting it forth to be. It's no longer that thing. It becomes something else. It begins to die, in fact, because it begins to become identified with this world. Even to package the thing is a violation, in a way, right? And for me, maybe one day, Benton will unlock the spiritual levels of never committing a violation, and then it won't really be able to do much of anything. When everything is knowably grasped, is knowingly, when all actions become violations, no, and I understand that, what's there left to do? Well, I guess go douse oneself with gasoline, sit cross-legged, call it a Vietnam War protest, and get up out of here. And is that a version of the Lord Christ Jesus, supposedly and purportedly ascending to the heavenlies? Right? If the monk really sat there calmly and placidly, and they were like, well, clearly the monk left his body. I don't know, maybe the monk trained himself his entire life to be able to just sit there while he burned up, and he knew that it'd be kind of funny. It'd be like a funny, sick joke to play on the rest of everybody. It's like, yeah, this will really stump him. And he just sat there yelling on the inside, right, and not fucking poker facing it on the outside. Now, I doubt anybody could just sit there and not run around like Richard Pryor did after he managed to light himself up smoking freebase and cocaine. And as hilarious as Richard Pryor was, he never got on stage and said anything as hilarious as the funniest joke about Richard Pryor, which is to light a match and to sort of hold it up to somebody and then just, manipulate it so it's kind of bobbing up and down and say, what's this? And they say, I don't know. That's Richard Pryor running down the street. That's Richard Pryor going down the street. You want to talk about a divine comedy? Richard Pryor, is hilarious as he was, and I'm certainly was a big fan, he never took a stage and said anything as funny as that. The realm certainly has a sense of humor. I mean, damn, that's cold. It wasn't cold when you was burning up, was it, Richard? Probably one of his horses set him on fire. And Richard's gonna keep it real and not tattle on nobody. Doubt he set himself on fire. You never know. Maybe he did. Maybe he did. And I'm in a world in which everybody knows what Amazon is. Everybody knows what Amazon Prime is. And now Amazon is a motor carrier, and there's tens of thousands of trailers, 53-foot dry van trailers getting hauled around on the interstates of America, and they've got the Amazon logo and it says Prime on the side of the trailer. But before there was an Amazon, there was a major refrigerated motor carrier called Prime Inc. And I've got bozo truckers who can't figure out that even though it says Prime on the side of it, guess what? Prime Inc. It also says Prime on the side of their trailer, and they want to say Prime, but refer to Amazon. And I'm like, well, the intelligence of what I am looks at that problem and says, there's no reason to ever call Amazon Prime in the context of trucking because there's a company called Prime. And at one time, they had more trailers than Amazon, and Amazon probably has more trailers now. But the name of Amazon is not Prime. And when it comes to hauling a trailer down the road, Prime refers to a refrigerated carrier, not Amazon. And you got people with brains who can't figure this out. And here I am on the truck driving forums message board going, there's actually no reason to ever refer to Amazon as Prime. There's no reason to ever do that. So vigilance and discipline and effectiveness in the real world is to say, okay, I've identified there's no reason to ever refer to Amazon as Prime ever again in the context of trucking, and to just never do that. Except these people, they're unable to perform that, not because they're bad, because they lack the knowledge of what is going on here. They don't understand what's happening. Just like the people who are blocking me in on the interstate, they don't know what's happening. And in some way, the Christ story is for me to take that beating and say, well, yeah, that's okay. I can live with, what choice is there? Now, I could get angry and frustrated and go off into an autistic diatribe, and I do at times, but it's less and less over time. But shit, we done fucked up. Thought I had enough room to stop there, and I don't. Take a pee. I usually don't pull into rest areas this early in the day, but I'm not going to pull into that one either. There might actually be a spot up in there, though. My intuition's saying there is, but I'm still not gonna go for it. Or at least enough room to not block things while I relieve myself. It's looking, I don't know, man. Let's see. Yeah, it's not looking promising. It's a definite maybe. Anyway, it's watermelon time. Woohoo! And so, to sort of bring this whole discourse home, it's never not about no matter what happens, the individual is either in a process of resolving the conflicts, contradictions, and just whatever's going on within themselves internally, or they're not. That's it. And every being has the opportunity to go within themselves and resolve whatever's happening in there on behalf of them, in service of them, for their own purpose, no matter what. And so when Benton says, yes, what I am is victory, that is victory over the flesh or over death. That's what that is. It's the overcoming or resurrection or transcending and moving beyond the limitation, the apparent limitations of death. When the fact is, what I am can never be limited at all. So the possibility of death doesn't actually exist in the context of what I am. There is no death in that context. Now, I've been reading these spiritual writings for decades now, and to read or to hear someone say there is no death, well, okay, but what context did they mean it in? Well, they didn't specify. I'm here to specify a context, and I just did. And in fact, I'm here to specify many contexts. And if Benton via performance, if that in some way you as a listener take a meaning, if you take something out of this performance and then you take it inside of yourself and you create meaning or bring forth meaning as a result, right? That would be a desire of the spirit of what I am. But what I am also can't ever control. It can't ever seek to possess or grasp or order about and to make you do that. What I am can't make you do anything because it's a violation, because in seeking to make you do something, I become lesser than what I am. It lessens what I am. And now what I am begins to die. And it's like, wait a minute. If what I am died, then it wasn't what I thought it was in the first place. Do you see what's happening here? It either is or it is not. There's no middle ground. Yes, every knee shall bow. Guess what? Every knee already bowed. And if your knee ain't bent in supplication, actually, there's a proper term. I can't think of it right now. Oh, genuflection, I believe. To genuflect, I believe, is to bow the knee. Get down on bended knee. One is either genuflecting on bended knee in a spiritual surrender to the spirit of what they are. And that can't happen until they access Christ consciousness and thereby come unto true knowledge of self. To uncover the righteous, perfected path that lies within. And that path could be accurately described as the way, the truth, and the life. Christians, rhetorical Christians. Well, I'm speeding. Don't mean to be speeding or slow my roll. It's 55 through here, sir. Oh yeah, we still got to pee. See, I already forgot I need to pee. Downtown. Well, we don't want to take that exit. All right. BRB. Oh yeah. Oh goodness. Mm. Oh man. You had quite the adventure yesterday. First, so driving through downtown Roanoke, and remember, I'm really good with the tight maneuvers. It's one of my, I'm not definitely not a great truck driver, but there's aspects of the job I'm very good at, and that's one of them. Tight turns, tight maneuvers when going forward, not when reversing. So I'm half a mile from the delivery. Half a mile. Well, maybe I was within a mile and a half, but I was in the last half mile of the downtown. Right. So I exited into downtown, but I was just barely going to be in downtown because the delivery is very close to downtown, but it's not, if you just I teleported you there and you looked around, you wouldn't think this is downtown. But it's like, yeah, but you walk 2 blocks that way and you're downtown. That makes sense. Or 3 blocks. It's like, yeah, the fucking Amtrak station is, 6 blocks that way. So I made it right next to the Amtrak station. And the whole fucking road I'm supposed to be driving down is tore up. They tore the whole road up. You can get through there in a car. And if not for, I know because I got out and walked around and held everything. I still think I could have gotten through there, but the it just wasn't worth it strategically. Too much stuff could go wrong potentially. So as soon as I pull up, I already noticed before I got to the end of it to even tell I was about to be trapped. There was some bozos in a moving truck working for a 2 men in a truck type trucking company. And they're backing the truck up to turn it around and position it on the street. Somebody's, in a loft apartment moving into a loft or something down there. Downtown. And of course, here I come. And we get the head whips up, the black guy that's running the crew or whatever. Here comes his head pops up, locks on to me, and here he comes. So I know, okay, I'm getting kidnapped. I already know that whatever I'm about to deal with is going to delay me. I'm probably going to have to get out, walk the area. I'm going to have to do some problems, which is it's fine. I don't mind the problem solving. And but because of his humanity, which sounds like a good thing. Oh, the humanity. Well, sometimes we say, oh, the humanity. And I don't think it's supposed to sound good, but then other times it's this idea of, empathy and love and all of this, a spirit of generosity and helpfulness. Except there's nothing he can do to help me. Nothing. Now, I don't know that because I just got here and I'm looking at all this for the first time. So I know I'm about to waste 10 minutes humoring this bozo because I'm going to have to spend the next however long extricating myself from the situation I've gotten myself into. And if I start out by telling this guy, giving this guy attitude, I'm going to get into a space within myself. It's going to make it more difficult to perform what I need to perform here. And so he's, wanting to give me the lay of the land, except he don't drive 18-wheeler. So what the fuck does he know about it? And, I'm gently and calmly trying to convey to him 2 ideas. Number one, yeah, well, I'm here. Actually, 3 ideas. I'm here now. So there's no building of a time machine so that I can not be here. I'm here. You see the rig is here, right? So now that's an issue that's about to be resolved, and I'm about to resolve it, and it's not going to have anything to do with talking to you unless I identify a specific task that must be performed, and you're the person who's able to facilitate such a performance. That's a lot of caveat. But see, here's what the human does. He's having an emotional process inside of himself because as soon as he saw me, He's transported himself emotionally into what his dead flesh predicts to be going on inside of me. And that causes tension in him. And he seeks to resolve that tension. Meanwhile, calm, cool, collected, not tense, not bothered, not worried. Me, I'm feeling, other than I'm just thinking like, okay, well, I had a viewpoint of how this afternoon was going to go time-wise based on I'm almost to the delivery. And now we've introduced delays that I don't even really know how long this is about to take. So beyond that, I feel absolutely nothing whatsoever about the situation, other than whatever I was feeling just before this. But because of his own process, now he must behave and act in specific ways to what? Release the tensions that are within him. And so part of me expressing righteously based on what I am is to then put my own needs temporarily to the side and just sit there and listen to him for 10 minutes. Yeah. While I make sure not to lose my cool by saying, hey man, this sucks. I agree, and you're making it take longer. So pretty please with sugar on top, would you get away from me? Right. Which I have no problem saying, except if I go there, it triggers enough of my own aggressions and my own dead flesh, and that's going to be bad for me and bad for everybody else. And again, it's Christ's victory over the dead flesh. So now what I am is actually going to be victorious over his flesh in a way, by extension. Because my first thing to him is, well, I can't back out. Except maybe I can. But I'm not going to back out immediately because I'm there. It's going to take forever, right? I'm delayed no matter what. So I know after 10 minutes of talking to this bozo, I'm just going to set the brakes, walk around the area and scope it out and come up with a plan. And if at the end of all of that, I determine, well, I don't believe that it's worth the risk of attempting to maneuver around all of this, even though I'm almost certain it was technically possible to have gotten through there going forward. Well, then we back out. Right. And so I even went to the guy after I scoped out the area because I hadn't made up my mind if I was going to try to go forward or not. So I went ahead and socially engineered him. I said, hey man, because if I was about to do what I was about to do, it was going to be in full view of him. So I had to go prepare him and say, hey man, what I'm about to do, I just want to let you know it's going to look crazy. It's going to look impossible. And you're going to want to freak the fuck out when you see it. But I'm here to tell you, I've done all types of crazy shit in that rig. This is all I do 7 days a week, drive that motherfucker. All I do. I did some stuff in a U-Haul parking lot I didn't think was possible. Now to bet you money wasn't possible. I did it. Because I asked the guy, and he assured me, and I believed him that, yeah, well, I know it doesn't look possible, but it's possible. But all right, well, we're about to find out. And he was right. The hilarious part about backing out is now I'm going to encounter a series of humans in the course of this problem solving, and now they're all going through they're experiencing emotions on behalf of me, predicting what they think I must be feeling like right now, except guess what? I'm not feeling any of that. I feel just fine about it, in fact. Part of me kind of likes it in a way. No, yeah, it's annoying. Still super annoying in a way. And I'm good at it. Because when everybody is going to go into an emotional state and panic within themselves, I stay calm, cool, and collected for whatever reason. So that when some bozo takes a header out of the window of the Salvation Army, third floor Salvation Army, right, as I'm walking up after working my shift, I'm going to go sleep in a homeless shelter so I can get up and go to truck driving school the next morning. And somebody staying there kicks out a window and goes head first into the pavement, bounces off the fucking sidewalk. And I don't even know this. All I saw was the bounce. Well, then what happens is a group of people stand around him and they look down at him and they don't know what to do. And they're going through whatever they're going through internally. And then I walk over, pull out my cell phone, call 911. And 911 doesn't believe me at first because in the world of 911, when something this serious happens, they don't get one phone call. They get 10 phone calls. So she's like, well, you're the only one. And I don't say it, but I'm like, yeah, everybody else is standing around looking at him. Because you don't want a world filled with Bentons who really don't feel it's neither here nor that. It's neither here nor there as far as I'm concerned. You don't want that world. You just need one or two of those motherfuckers in a given scenario. I mean, one of them, two of them. Because 911, this guy lived for a week. So, and his parents came and they were with him when he was in the hospital and all this. He's a young guy, he's in his 20s. He passed like a week later. So, and again, I don't, I've saved multiple people's lives potentially, but, I don't view it that way. But yeah, the fact, if he ends up surviving and if, some of that is how quickly can the medics get there, and the more accurate information they have, they can act even more quickly. So did I want to bend down there and put my face next to his face and describe his motherfucking condition to 911? No, I didn't. I was probably the only one capable of doing any of this. Now, would I be able to do that while simultaneously freaking the fuck out? No. So I don't choose to not freak the fuck out. I just don't freak the fuck out. Right? It's not a choice. It's just, I've always been this way. So that same thing about me is happening yesterday downtown. Right? Which just ended up being me backing up until something got in my way, and then I get out and explain to somebody that, well, I don't know what to tell you because you can't physically go forward because that big rig's in your way, and I'm backing out of here. So if you think I'm going to pull forward to make enough space for you, that's not going to happen. I don't know what to tell you, but I'm here until I back out of here. So you probably ought to figure out some other way to get where you're going. Right? And, to convey that without getting in a fist fight. which I was able to do. And, here comes some lady parked on the street, and she's, full attention on me. I know how to read her face. It's that sympathy, right? Well, sympathy and pity are not tools I can use to create anything with, right? So, okay, sympathy and pity. What great. What now? Where do we go from here? And so, I get to go socially manage her, right? Because I think she's just going to try to like stand on the sidewalk and watch me. So, which is fine. I mean, she's welcome to watch. All I'm going to do is say, hey, if you don't mind, if you're like in the area where I'm backing up and all of this, it's another thing I have to pay attention to. So if you don't mind, just pretty please with sugar on top, go watch from somewhere else. It turned out her vehicle was right next to my tractor. And so she was able to go forward. But then in her mind, she wants to help. She's like, oh, well, no, I was going to wait for you. Well, number one, you can wait over on the other side of the sidewalk. But if you want to wait in your vehicle, that's fine. But what I'm telling her is if you're leaving, it's better for me if you just leave, because if you sit there and you're going to drive away the moment you think I'm not in your way, or the moment you think I'm done, whatever that means, now I have to watch what you're doing so I don't accidentally hit you, right? Meanwhile, on some level, we must both understand that she's got a, late model BMW SUV. She probably doesn't want anybody hitting it with an 18-wheeler. So I don't know, lady, maybe you ought to just drive this thing out of here if that's what you were going to do anyway. But then it's like, oh, no, I want to be considerate to you and wait till you're done. It's like, well, you're not in my way, number one. Number two, if I have to keep an eyeball on you while I'm doing all this other stuff, that's bad for me. So if you actually want to help, get in your car and get the fuck out of here. And I didn't say it that way, but I mean, that's what it comes down to. But again, I know I can't engage with those parts of my dead flesh in that moment. And that is the mastery. See, that's mastery of the thing. See, that's an exhibition of mastery, performatively. Hmm. So I finally get backed up enough to get out of there, but there's nowhere to stop long enough to make a plan to get far enough out of the area to then figure out, okay, what streets do I need to go down to find an alternate route to this delivery. So now we're in the trucker hell of just more or less having to just sort of blindly find our way out of the area, or at least to enough of a safe zone to be able to have enough time to figure it the fuck out. Right. And that's trucker hell, but, there's a lot of like, no truck signs. And at one point, there was another road that I'm almost certain would have gotten me out of there. It was also closed. And a dump truck went down it, but it said local traffic only. And I can't, again, if I drive down it and I can't get through there, then now I'm backing out of something again. It's like, well, okay, I'm not doing that. Maybe I can fit, maybe I won't. It's not worth it. And eventually I end up making it over next to a school. And then I get to stop long enough to call the owner of the company and tell him what's going on. And of course, he's just like, hey, man, yeah, just take your time. Don't hit nothing. I'm like, hey, done and done, sir. No problem there. And then here comes the cop because he's like, yo, man, you got about 10 minutes. And, people are going to start parking here to pick up their kids from school or whatever. And I'm like, I don't know what to tell you, man. Like, basically, I'm fucking trapped. And this is what, and see, I don't have no, and this is a very like man to man thing. And he just, without getting shitty with me, without threatening me, without anything, he just goes, well, you got about 10 minutes. And without saying it, it's like, I'll just write your happy ass a ticket, basically. And then I'm thinking to myself, because what I was going to do is sit there long enough to make the entire plan. So now if he's shortening my time frame to sit there to 10 minutes, which by the way, he could have just said, hey man, get this thing the fuck out of here right fucking now. So I'm probably breaking the law by having a truck on that street. And it's probably illegal where I'm at. It's probably illegal. And I'm sure he could figure out some kind of way to write me a ticket. And so if he's going to give me 10 minutes, it's like, okay, yes, sir, I will absolutely be out of here in 10 minutes. No problem. And then, because I know in 10 minutes, I can at least figure out how to get the fuck out of this area. Then once I get out of this area, I can find somewhere to figure out how to get to the actual delivery. Man, this is some particularly poor driving on display at the moment. I mean, real bad. And that's another thing I'm very good at as a trucker is when I get into these my pattern recognition is so high. I just know what to do and where to go to mathematically, the lowest chance of an accident, basically. Whether these bozos like it or not, it's not my concern. Like, yeah, I'm a big rig. I can't just magically not be in the way when you're trying to merge onto the interstate at this time of the morning. It's just not possible. Deal with it. So I was able to get out of there, and once I got up on the big road, I found a spot to pull over, and then I was able to fairly straightforward to plan a route to make it to the delivery. And it's fun. Last time I just happened to I planned the route last time, but I didn't realize just how fraught with peril the local area is. I sort of lucked my way into avoiding problems, but I still ran into like I did this insane type maneuver to get into that delivery. I think I talked about it on stream. There were two stalled vehicles in this one intersection, and it made it where it was extremely difficult to get through there, although it's possible. My thing is, well, if I go back there, if they put more stalled vehicles in the way, I just won't be able to get through there at all. So, if more broke down vehicles have joined the fray. So basically this all happened because I was trying to avoid that one area. And if anybody remembers when I talked about I went down this real crazy steep road and I had to make this crazy turn onto a busy street, but it's all technically doable and legal. It's not a prohibited road. So after going down that, the GPS wanted to send me up that route. And so I was like, no, I'm not going to do that. So I intentionally avoided that. And that's how I ended up getting to the customer. By then I'd been through the fucking meat grinder and I said, fuck it, I might as well just drive up this bitch then. So that's what I did. Not recommended. It's definitely not good for the rig based on some of the noises the transmission was making. Yeah, the rig was not a fan. but it'll be all right. Now, if I was heavy, it would have been a nightmare, but lightly laden, it wasn't too bad. And I'm going back to another spot. Hilariously, there's a one item on this trailer going to a place in South Carolina, and I've already scoped out the location. It's just like not designed for big rigs, but I guess this is why part of the reason I'm actually employable, I suppose. You know, just watching how these people drive, I know their mental state or a reasonable approximation of what's going on in their minds. I know what's happening in there. It's not good. It's not good. You know, I could describe what I just witnessed. There's no point in it. There's not really even a value in explaining it. It's just, you know, it should be inexplicable, but it's not. You know, I've got my own opinions about why a lot of these things are happening. And of course, some group of the population will just go, it's liberal. Oh, okay. Well, it's still happening, sir. I don't know what to tell you. Blueberries. Time for blueberries. Hmm. And then after all of that, I got to the delivery exactly when the only guy who was there that could unload the truck, he got back from making some deliveries. So it's like, I mean, yeah, it kind of sucked in a way to go through all of that, but either way, kind of funny how that works, right? And I know exactly which way I'm going if I get sent back there. I know exactly where not to go, and I know exactly where to go. Well, I guess that's enough out of me. I'm getting close enough to this delivery. Bye.